And welcome back to the Not For Normies Invitational Tournament semifinals for the losers bracket. We are again at a game where if the team that loses is out, they're gone. The winning team moves on to the next round and gets a chance at some glory. The other team, well, is sent packing home. As I just said, I'm repeating myself. That's what happens when you get to watch these teams so many times in a row. And I'm joined again by LaFawn and Lemon Kiwi as we are going to talk about some of these teams. And we've seen both of these teams now play today, which means it's going to be an interesting match, especially if they also have watched each other play. So, LaFawn, what do you think going into this match?
I mean, it's going to be an exciting one for sure, right? We're nearly to the end of the tournament, in fact, and that's when we start seeing some of the really, really cool matchups. The teams are, about the same skill level, about the same competitiveness in terms of how we're gonna see against each other. So I expect some good play here tonight. And again, we've seen Clarity quite a bit. Lemon and I, of course, we just casted their game against We Showed Up. And now to see them go up against Livid and see how they continue that gameplay from before, or if Livid will be the one who knocks them out.
It's going to be definitely interesting, and I want to hear your opinions on it in just a second, Lemon, because we saw one team, now they had to play a few more maps. Livid had to, the 2-1 was their score line, so they had to play that extra map. However, we just watched Clarity fight back a 5-minute hold. So one of these teams might be a little more exhausted. Maybe both of these teams are tired, or they are both energized and ready to go. Who knows? So, Lemon, what is your take on this match?
I think both these teams are fighting so hard to get through this losers bracket. Both these teams got knocked out in the semifinals and now trying to claw their way back and prove themselves in this tournament. So Team Livid, I didn't get to see them, but I do recognize a couple of these names: Bow Jobs, Salty, and Saturn. These are all names you recognize from the community, from how hard they've been grinding through Open Division and through Grandmaster level, as well as Clarity. We just saw them having, how their flexibility is what I think to keep note of. They can play the Doomfist, they can play the Pharah, they can play the Sombra, they can play anything. They're not your goats one trick as you think a lot of teams might bring out. They actually will bring that generic 2-2-2, and they'll bring back the dive, things that has been disappearing from this meta. So I'm very excited to see how Clarity can take this upwards momentum and bring it to Team Livid.
It's going to be very interesting. We've seen two teams that really can flex quite a bit, have shown some favored styles, and both have shown some resilience. Like you said, getting knocked out of the winners bracket, coming down to the losers bracket, and now fighting to where they are. But we do have to figure out which one of these teams are going to go home. And so I'm going to go ahead and throw you guys, into the spotlight or under the bus, however you want to word it. Who do you think is going to take this game?
LaFawn, you go first.
LaFawn, let's start with you as far as who do you think is going to take this map? Lemon Kiwi. It looks like we're having a technical issue with.
Of course,
LaFawn,
he would just unplug his modem when he gets the hard question. Clarity. I mean, I just saw them on stream and how well they were doing. They weren't making too many mistakes. Just have to be careful with their dives and how far they want to send their Doomfist in. I think if they can keep those out of positions in check, I expect Clarity to take this one. But Team Livid can also be a surprise. I haven't got to see them yet, so it's hard for me to cheer for a team I haven't seen yet. But I'm hoping for a great match nonetheless.
Well, I think one of the interesting things with Team Livid is they've only been together for about a week now. So says their team sheet. They're very new, so they're going to be very hungry to get a win under their belt and really prove in their probably one of their first experiences as a team out together in a tournament to get some big wins and start to make that name for themselves. So I'm actually going to go with Team Livid. Not that I want to sell Clarity short, because they absolutely have looked like a solid team as far as what we've seen today, with their resilience to pull back long holds on defense and then continue that into the next round. But if you had to pick a player for your team, Clarity, to pop off and help them win this game, who are you looking to? What
Ooh, I don't know. It's hard. I mean, I said my MVP was Ultimate. I think we both were fighting over who wanted Ultimate Web the most. But I think he's going to be the one that pops up. He's going to be the fair player. Actually, I think our first map's going to be King's Row, so I can put it into context of you could see a fair on that one. And I think he was the one that brought out the Doomfist. And they've been running a lot of this Sombra Sombra Genji or Amadion on the Hanzo and Ultima Web on the Doomfist. And I could totally expect him to see that Hanzo Doomfist back once more, especially on King's Row defense, which I believe they will be on the defense first. We'll have to see. And Amadion's Dragon Strikes have been great, but also his Hanzo. So he's been able to keep that distance battle, and he's been able to flex to that Widowmaker role if his team needs to. And having that strong Widowmaker player is very pivotal to turning these team fights before they even start. And Amadion, especially against Tyler from a team we showed up that just played, Amadion was commanding those Widowmaker duels. He was commanding on those on the Hanzo. Has to be careful with his coordination with Odd on I think it was Odd. It might have been another player as the Zarya, because if a Graviton gets whiffed, you can't send your Dragon Strike in. There has to be that clear communication. So Clarity have to be very clear on how they communicate.
Very well worded and very true. It's going to be all by the inches as far as these two teams are concerned, both of them looking to gain momentum, hold momentum, and steamroll the other team and just keep that morale high. And it's going to be those moments like you were just talking about that are going to decide this game. And it looks like we are getting close to this game being ready to kick off. So any final thoughts before we send it on over? It looks like we will be going over to King's Row first.
I don't know who to watch out for or what to watch for. I mean, Team Livid have all changed their icons to top 500. So yeah, we get it. You were top 500 once, but will you be the top of this tournament is the question. It's the losers bracket. There's no screwing around. Clarity on upwards momentum. Team Livid obviously feeling very good coming into King's Row. King's Row, everyone's favorite map. It's very tank heavy, and we saw Clarity how strong they were on the side of Trolls, Reinhardt, and Odd on the D.Va. As we will be heading into the map, and I hope LaFun, you back, buddy? Did you plug in your modem?
Oh, I'm back. It took a little bit of that's a really stressful situation there. Hopefully this doesn't happen to the players, because I'm gonna have to go yell at my router after the game. It just shut off for some reason. No rhyme or reason. Unlucky.
Well, we are into the map, everybody. Thanks. I know you unplugged your modem because you got a hard question, but I threw myself under the bus, and I combined our opinions and our predictions into one big brain, high IQ prediction of we think Clarity's gonna win, and that's because I haven't seen Team Livid, so I have no idea how good they are. But LaFon, you missed it, or maybe you saw it in the lobby. They all changed their icons to top 500, so maybe Team Livid are actually serious. They're actually good.
Yeah, top 500. Here's I haven't one day I'll get that icon on my account. One day. On this account specifically, actually. But we'll leave that for another time.
So I gotta lay this hard question on you. Then who do you think's gonna win, or who do you think we should watch out for?
You already answered for me, so I'm gonna keep going with it. Clarity's winning, no question in my mind.
Wow, no question, not a single one.
Not one. I assume, because the prediction you made for both of us will have to be good. So
I'm probably gonna curse it. And...
Listen, here's the reason for my prediction for Clarity. Either we're right and we're both amazing, or we're both wrong and I can blame you for making the big brain prediction without me there. So
you're gonna get my prediction backpack and you're gonna blame me if I'm wrong, and you're gonna take the credit. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
Absolutely.
You know what?
Absolutely.
Why am I stuck?
No question.
This was a pause, by the way, everybody. We're not just over talking here. We're back into King's Row, and like I said, Clarity will be on the defense. So,
yeah, we'll get an opportunity to see how they stack up with this composition. They did want to run the Doomfist a lot. They were running, sort of the Hanzo before. Again, King's Row is a map where you can run tanks, and you can run tanks pretty aggressively. So I would not be surprised to see the offense at least begin with that composition. So this looks like to be what Clarity thinks as well. They're going with that anti goats composition, which they kind of showed earlier and continue here. Troll on the Doomfist. My bad. On the Hammond. Will that stick? Well, we're about to find out.
I didn't think that was serious. All right, trolling me here. With the okay.
Listen, there's nothing that builds team chemistry more than people jumping off a map together.
I don't think that's how you bond. I don't want to bond with you this way. I don't want to just jump off the map.
Just jump off the map. It's gonna be fine. We're gonna be okay.
Everything is fine. I went on my Tinder profile. Like long walks off the map. This is how I bond.
I mean, we told Mark Killer this was bad advice before, so I continue to say this. That is bad advice. Don't actually put that there. You will find no one who shares that particular hobby with you.
All right. Compositions though, the Hammond is gone, and the double tank, double DPS for the defense, and Team Livid coming out with the 2-2-2. Oh, Rocker, last second switch goes to the triple support now.
And we're gonna see something interesting here. Again, we did see this comp from Clarity before. This is what they want to run against the Goats composition, that Doomfist, that Hanzo, and so far not really finding a lot of pressure. They have zoned out a little bit, but Livid finding a little bit more entry space.
Yeah, they have to be careful, and Team Livid just finding the space, but there's a body and finding some shots. Takes out Saturn, and Troll is moving forward. Has to be careful of the pins from Dunk, and that sleep on the Odd will keep him out of the fight, but that is a one fight for Clarity.
It is a one fight for Clarity, and it's off the back of what this composition, it does so much in terms of just zoning pressure. You can't drop a shield for a second because the Hanzo with that arrow provides a lot of damage throughput, and Ultima Web constantly in the harass has the ability to get that insta-kill, and on top of that, that's what ends that fight. So going through the hotel now, that Goats comp try to take that fight to point.
Oh, and they're pushed into this corner, and the Shatter hits almost every single one, and you got the Dragon Strike to just eat everybody up like Pac-Man, but Team Livid will have to reset yet again.
Lemon, you're a Reinhardt player, right?
I try to tell people I am.
So there's nothing more frustrating than playing Reinhardt, and then all of a sudden you're not playing the game because you're knocked up in the air by a Doomfist. And Dunks found that out the hard way. Into the air by Ultima Web, and then Troll with the easiest Earth Shatter of his life hits all 5, and it wins the fight for them right there. Now resetting into this next fight, Livid using that nano boost.
Now you got the Nano on the Dunks. He's going forward, just holding on to that left click, just hammering everybody. You have to be careful of the Madian, who's putting in a lot of pressure from the top there, and Rocker is rocking everybody's day up. Team Livid step onto the point, but it's the Dragon Strike that meets them there. Dunks getting slept, somehow doesn't get touched by that Dragon, but Team Livid take their first tick. Clarity, they want to re-engage here. Odd is slept though, and you would have liked him around to give those bubbles. He's awake now, and the tanks are charging in. Odd gets chunked down, and that will not be a re-engage for Clarity, as Team Livid will unlock the payload.
They do a great job, and on top of that, the defense doesn't really have any ultimates to work with beyond Earth Shatter slowly, and Sound Barrier perhaps soon as well. Now the offense have more to work with, and they find themselves just doing a better job of taking advantage of the mispositioning by Clarity. Ultima Web uses that Meteor Strike and just gets caught out, gets taken apart, and then of course Troll going down early gives much more space for Livid to work with. So now Clarity trying to reset here as the cart moves forward through Streets phase of King's Row. Ultima Web engaging yet again.
They toss them all up, they try to land the Shatter, and now it's Dunks who gets shattered. Now the Graviton for last measure is thrown from Saturn, but the Sound Bear keeps them up, but Salty will be peppering them all up with that bomb, and Team Livid have won this fight.
They do again. You can't help but chuckle because that is such an interesting fight. The Earth Shatter doesn't actually get very much with a knock-up this time. A much better positioning from Livid, and that is actually going to force Ultima Web out. The Sound Barrier comes through, but the Self-Destruct will cut through it regardless. And the Graviton Surge ends up being a zoning grab for the shield, so a lot more there. Ultima Web, though, starts this next fight off with an early kill.
Well, it's a 2-1 advantage. Clarity have lost Ultima Web, and Amadian is low, has that Dragon Strike, but they look like they've zoned Team Livid off enough. Rocker likes to die on the payload instead of with the rest of his team, and Team Livid will have to reset, but it's quite a walk to get all the way to this point of the map.
Yeah, both teams are going to be full strength in this next fight, so it is going to be that fight, though, gave an opportunity for Clarity to build their ultimates up. Near that 6 ultimates, Owl does have the only one out, as he's the Sound Barrier not close there. Did use it, of course, in the last fight. Meanwhile, Livid, not a lot to work with here.
That a la Tilme, the rally is in, the Graviton it catches absolutely no one, and the Dragon Striker's thrown into nothing as well. So Team Livid moving in, they'll have the Nano and a Shatter here, but the anti-heal, it hits almost everyone from the offense, and the Ultima Web smashing into the backline. So Team Livid now have to send in their Graviton. They give that Nano to Saturn to melt through the enemy team, and they start to get that advantage building up, and Clarity have burned enough time off the clock, but their defense will be stopped here.
For sure. That was That entire sequence starts off with a terrible, there honestly is no other word for it, grab from Odd. He doesn't hit a single person with the Graviton Surge, and then the Dragon Strike from Amadian falls through the grab. It's into the grab, but as we mentioned earlier, the Graviton had no one, and so that's 2 ultimates for nothing. They use the Earth Shatter as well, and that also gets dodged, so basically 3 high-impact ultimates get no value, and that gives Livid the opportunity to take full advantage.
Oh, self-destruct into the back from the offense, and it's shielded, but it still catches July. That's a lot of healing, and he got both supports gone from Clarity. Team Livid now can take advantage. They want to occupy as much space as possible, get those stagger kills. There's Saturn just melting everybody away, and takes care of Amadian. He's gonna get staggered so much now. They just have to push this payload until the end of King's Row.
That gives them a lot more opportunity to work through here. Saturn's gonna have another grab. He's gonna actually lap Odd here in that regard. Into this next fight, high energy, gonna work through it. As again, a last-second contest from Clarity on card.
Oh, and the Graviton, as soon as it's earned, it's thrown out from Saturn. But Rocker gets dealt with. He couldn't throw his Dragon Strike, although he's 3% away. Ultima Web is always there to mess up the backline, whether it's the supports, whether it's the DPS. Clarity have been holding on with just an inch of their life and have warded off Team Livid.
They get a chance to do that, and on top of that, again, it's been a story of teams that use ultimates and not find value. Oh, Amadian getting a little cocky there. Does pay for it with his life as Rocker coming back from spawn picks up the headshot, but ultimates have not been the name of the game here. They've not been valuable at all for either team realistically.
Oh, Dragon Strike from the offense, but remember, Odd still has that Graviton and has to have the backup of the rest of their team, but there's just really no room being built here. When is he going to launch it? Ultima Web is down, Troll is down, July has to use the Nano onto Odd, who throws out the Graviton. Now the Dragon Strike is thrown in, and Amadian will secure the final kills that Clarity needed. And look at that, there's only 2 people left. That was barely one there from Clarity.
Oh, the name of the game. If you can get your ultimate to work, it is going to actually pay off. And Odd with a huge Graviton Surge, and more importantly, the damage follow-up is there. Amadian with the Dragon Strike, and then follows up with the Stormbow, gets all the kills and a team kill as a result.
Oh, when the Graviton is ready from Saturn, and he throws it up. Self-destruct available from Salty. He also throws it into the back. What does it find? Only Owl is the victim, but Troll goes down as well. Team Livid try to find a position now onto the payload. They have the number advantage. Dunks is low. They use the Dragon Strike to create that room, and Amadian is the only one left with July by his side. Does Clarity have to use the Hammond to spin to win and have all the reinforcements, all that stall to get enough members back onto this payload? As it continues to spin, but Troll is only finding the back of the spawn room as Team Livid find the back of King's Row.
They deliver that bomb to the poor Omnix here on King's Row, so that payload will get all the way there. 3 points captured, and on top of that, they have time remaining on the clock. So 10 seconds, but 10 seconds can sometimes be enough to force another round. And Clarity, they almost there, very, very close, but Livid do a great job of just cleaning up the point, and some excellent tank play to create a lot of space for themselves. Dunks has been a pretty good Reinhardt here in terms of just being aggressive and forcing Clarity to have to deal with him. So a great job there from Livid on the offense, and Clarity, not a shabby defense either.
I was very happy with, I think it was the Doomfist player from Clarity, always stifling these pushes from Team Livid, going into the back and dealing with, oh my god, all these names escape me. I think it was Saturn maybe on the Hanzo. But it's been Team Livid taking too much time at point C. It felt like everything was rather easy through Streets phase and a bit of a scuffle at the end of point B, but it was point C to be proven to be their biggest challenge.
I mean, that's how it usually goes though, right? That third point is almost always the hardest one to take, and King's Row is no exception. It's going to be... actually, I say that, but King's Row has a lot of interesting points where you can hold. So that being said, it is going to now be Clarity's turn to run through the map. At least that's what they're hoping for. Okay, listen,
Try to.
It's a category in Overwatch. How quickly you can get through the map. So
that is the name of the game, and Clarity coming out with Ultima Web on the Pharah, and last minute swaps Amadian onto the Widowmaker. Maybe getting a quick look at what Team Livid were running, spawning now Saturn onto this McCree and triple support. They're just gonna try and keep this distance battle.
They're running a dive into basically this is a super interesting comp here from Livid, as they're going to be zoned into Hotel by Ultimate Web in the air. But again, the McCree is available. Never mind, I take that back. Saturn takes him out right away.
Team Livid are just playing Ring Around a Rosie, going towards the back. They've got M. July, who is into the back line, and Odd is about to lose mech, but they've given up 2 ticks. Are Team Livid going to touch? They need to go in now, and they don't really have any ultimates. Saturn has to go back as Tracer to be able to get back quicker. It's a winnable fight here. 3 picks for Team Livid, but it's a bit messy when you had to give up 2 ticks to do so.
I mean, better 2 ticks than the entire point, though, and that may be the opportunity here, though. Clarity come back. The respawns, of course, are closer for them, and it's going to be point A likely unlocked here for Clarity, as Amadian with that Widowmaker finds 2, and that will be enough to take point A. So they buy themselves just a moment of respite as the reset comes in. Owl gets the Resurrect off, and now through second point here for Clarity, as Livid have to play a really passive style now.
Well, with this dive, I don't know if Clarity are going to keep it or want to opt to go Ryan Zarya. That's what the popular pick is, and you have Troll, who's into this building, thinks he's a sneaky monkey, and there's Ultimate Web, who hops on, uses the brush, annihilate dunks, but it forces out also the Transcendence, so Clarity are just very happy with how that engagement went.
This is a really messy fight, and Ultimate Web is kind of zoned out by Owl of all people. Salty comes in with the cleanup, sorry, Bow rather, not Owl, as Owl was playing his Mercy partner. And it's going to now be a reset there. Clean fight. A good start, but again, when pickups happen back-to-back like that, it puts the fight in question. And at that point, Livid was doing a much better job of just resetting into getting the kills, the final blows necessary. And Clarity unable to really win anything from it. Now, some switches over. Troll goes to the Reinhardt. But Graviton Surge on cart right away.
It looks like they're able to actually survive it, and Troll receives the nano boost, pins towards nothing, gets shattered there from dunks, so that ultimately did not end up to do anything. In Clarity, at least they switched to the Ryan Zarya, which is going to be important if they want to push through streets, and they have 4 minutes, so they have plenty of time to figure themselves out.
Yeah, 3 ultimates used there from Livid. They do still have both support ultimates online, though. The Rally and, of course, the Sound Barrier. So they do have stuff to work with. Clarity, on the other hand, only now building up to self-destruct. Other than that, not much, as they are in full Goat's failure.
The Sound Barrier's dropped there from the defense. Team Livid chase their kills all the way towards the left side. And Saturn's been popping off on this Tracer. Actually surprising, because there's a Brigitte on the other side. And whenever there's a Tracer that gives you trouble, everyone says, just switch to Brigitte forehead. And that's actually not the answer.
Yeah. I mean, hey, a good Tracer will still get a lot of space from, especially with that nerf to her shield bash. Now it's in 7 seconds, so you have to be a lot more judicious with how you use it, and Saturn is therefore able to find some value. But even so, Ultimate Web now, going up to that rally, they do start to bring their ultimates online. Dunks, it's the Earth Shatter yet again.
Wow, and waited until that stun there from Rocker to open up that shield, just destroy the enemy Reinhardt, and then shatter the rest of his team. So it's been one ultimate after one ultimate. Team Livid have been winning fight after fight, and Clarity are not seeing the end of this tunnel.
Even worse, it's now been 2.5 fights for Clarity, and they haven't built realistically a good ultimate bank that has been able to counter Livid. Livid still has that Graviton Surge, still has that Pulse Bomb, and there goes the Graviton yet again.
Oh, and the Pulse Bomb gets sent towards the back. It's not enough damage to chunk through everything. The Sound Barrier, the Self-Destruct, the Nano Boost. Clarity are investing a lot into this, and they're finally starting to get some momentum. Team Livid have lost Salty. They try to just stall this payload, but they got anti-healed. So that's a quick swing and a home run for Troll, as Clarity have finally cleared this fight, and we'll get some space on this payload.
They will, and again, this is all because this is something that Brigitte does so well. That armor, that mitigation, just the amount of damage she can tank, and on top of that, Amadian on the Zarya hits some brilliant bubbles inside that Graviton Surge from Salty, and prevents any damage from coming through on the Pulse Bomb. So a combination of those two factors means that Shatter not finding value.
Oh, he just pinged that that Doomfist out of position, but the Transcendence allowed him to get saved, and Troll just got destroyed from that. That was a pretty smart play, but ended up backfiring so hard there on Clarity.
Madian goes down to his own right click there, and it's going to be a reset now. Unfortunately, they use both tank ultimates, and I think the only saving grace is that they actually have ultimates, while they have an ultimate, while Livid used everything in that last fight. That being said, this is such a tough thing. Earthshatter gets blocked, Graviton Surge is nullified, and as they engage with Rally here, not a whole lot to work with.
Salty is 81 on Grav too, so we could see at this fight if things get a little hairy, but Saturn gets anti-healed and he gets swept up by Ultima Weps, Brigitte Flail, and now Team Livid are very low. They try to back off, they need Dunks to stay alive, the shield is broken, and that's when Clarity start to roll. They're looking at the end of point B, and Team Livid looks like they can only hold here for C and hope for the best, but they've shaved off a lot of time off this bank.
They have taken a lot of time off the clock, and a little bit of aggressive play there from Saturn, or from Rocker rather. Just not a good showing in terms of understanding your positioning in terms of the Bionade. Doesn't get blocked, and as a result, it's an easy kill, and it's gonna have to be content with that much time. A minute 50 though, as Shatter committed yet again.
And it catches Owl, but the Nano's trying to make up for it. July is somehow popping off as the Ana and Clarity are not getting a break here. There's only 4 members left onto this payload. They look like they still want to commit and go forward with what they have, build that space, and maybe even get that kill onto Antal into the back. But Clarity now have a Grav, but it's a Grav versus Grav in this upcoming team fight, and Team Livid need to plan this perfectly.
The difference is Team Livid here has a support ultimate. They have 2, in fact. Both the Sound Barrier and the Transcendence. Meanwhile, Clarity, not much of anything at all.
Oh, it's actually Salty's Graviton that lands first, and Madian's being very patient with his. No barrier used from Owl either. Clarity, they have all the ultimate advantage, and they don't want to invest anything into this.
They're going to reset here. Troll does jump off the map to get back with his team faster, of course, as it is going to be last fight. We're in 50 seconds remaining, so less than a minute. Last fight territory, of course, here on Kings Row with how long it takes to get to that last point. And again, they only use the Graviton Surge does Livid, as Clarity starting to build up their ultimate economy. Salty switching over to the D.Va here.
You want to eat this Grav, that's what you want to do. Amadian has it, and they know it's coming. The Transcendence now is out from Bao, and this could give a huge opportunity for Amadian, but they've just lost Troll, so there's not any shields to protect you from Dunks' Shatter and the Meteor Strike from above from Rocker. Team Livid have held this defense, and Clarity only have 20 seconds. They have all the ultimates, but can they even get to the payload to touch?
This is so tough for them. Unfortunately, Bao does use the Transcendence, so there is an opportunity here for Clarity if they can get 2 cards.
They just got rid of the D.Va. Oh no, and now Amadi is still holding onto this Grav. He throws it out, but the barrier keeps Rocker alive through it. Clarity also just used the Nano, but there's nothing going on for Clarity. Team Livid are seconds away from holding this defense here on the Kings Row to put them up 1-0 in this best of 5.
Saturn in back-to-back fights, the hero there, the Roadhog hook, the king of that fight, and even though Roadhog may be in an awkward position right now in terms of power level, hey, getting 2 kills instantly with that hook, hooks Troll out of position once, knocks him off the map, and then Odd, of course, in the last fight, one of the reasons that fight was lost. So some great play there from Saturn on that hero, and that's going to allow Livid to take the map and the lead in this series. Clarity, a close match there, but just a little bit too short on the final moments.
I'm surprised it took Amadian that long to use the Grab. It was kind of 2 or 3 consecutive fights that they had the upper hand, they have momentum, and you still weren't seeing that Grab. And Troll dying, that Grab could have maybe saved him, trap the other team and try and bubble your Rhine. And I don't know what really happened with Clarity there. They have all this positive energy, all this fire from their previous win, and they were the ones making all the right choices, and now it's them making all the wrong ones.
I mean, it is map 1. They did have a long series, so you can sort of chalk it up to that, or a previous series, not really a long one, a previous series. So you can chalk it up to the fact that they've played so far, but you gotta clean it up in the next map. You're down 1-0. You don't want to let it go 2-0. Again, there's a lot riding on the line here. The winner goes on, the loser goes home, and so for Clarity into map number 2, it's going to have to be a much better effort towards just understanding their win conditions and making sure to actually execute on them. They had moments here where they were really a good concerted efforts, but you cannot be stuck on the street phase, like for the second point for Kings Row for that long, just by being unable to generate ult charge and allowing a team to use one ultimate a fight to win. if that happens, that team is likely going to win more often than not. And in fact, it was the fact that Livid used a little too much, a little too aggressively without finding value that actually allowed them to even get to third phase. So Clarity has a lot to work on here in the second map, and they're going to have to do it awful quick.
It's like Clarity started with the dive, and then they kind of got behind because then they switched to Ryan Zarya. It took them a while to build up that grab because you had Saturn on this Tracer that was constantly harassing their backline and chunking down the tanks. So it took a long time for Clarity to get through even the main archway after the payload unlocks, and they got that based off of a grab and a good anti-heal. So it took them a while just to get. I think all of their time was mostly spent through that choke. And then even at the end of point B, all that time it takes to walk all the way to the end of point B. And then point C, they had all these ultimates banked from all these fights that they just won and then didn't know how to execute when they had the advantage. So it's all about composure when it comes to these long drawn out maps and these long drawn out fights. I'm hoping to see, I think we're going to Lijiang Tower will be our second map. And we hope to see maybe the series progress a little bit less one-sidedly.
I mean, Clarity have already showed us what they're capable of on Lijiang Tower. It's been, they've run the map before. They've run the composition they liked before. I think the difference between the previous series and this series was that Clarity was not really forced to change how they were playing, right? Yes, we showed up. There were moments where they played really well, but on the whole, Clarity was the better team and wasn't forced to run anything that they didn't want to. Here against Livid, the opportunities have been somewhat against them. They're not the ones making the decisions. Sometimes they're the ones having to react in the compositions they're running, and Livid has sort of set the tone. Now, Clarity has to be that team that kind of changes up or forces Livid to change up what they're playing and put them out of their comfort zone, because it's when you can play what you want to play, there's sort of like a calming factor to that, and that allowed Livid to kind of win that map out as a result.
I think we could say that we give a big thumbs up or maybe a fist bump to Clarity, because they, I think, commanded the Lijiang Tower map we saw them on last. But remember, Team Livid, I haven't seen them, and now I've seen them, and they look pretty damn good. So I'm excited to see how this second map's going to go. It is a best of 5. There's a little bit more wiggle room than, in comparison to a best of 3. Clarity and Team Livid, I mean, maybe expect Ultima Web to bring back that Pharah, but the question is, does Team Livid have that Pharah player? Or are they going to focus on hit scan and maybe point pressure heroes?
Well, I mean, if these comps that we see right now are anything to go by, it's going to be the Pharah composition versus the hit scan composition. One a little bit more focused on the ground forces, the other one a little bit more focused on just spamming as much damage as possible from the air. And of course, I'm talking about Clarity with the air comp. Imagine if McCree could fly. That would be fascinating.
Give McCree wings or something, or a big hop.
Make him a moth. I want to see that.
Or those NBA dunks. Anyway, Team Livid will get speed boosted there forward thanks to Antal. No Licio from Clarity. They'll be on the back foot, and that stun onto Odd will get him out of mech. And although they have a pretty good composition with Ultima Web on that Pharah, they didn't get enough initial pressure. So Team Livid now rotate towards the point. Point unlocks here in a couple seconds, and Clarity maybe can focus on getting a few picks. They have Odd back in mech, so there is still a chance, Lafon.
There is still a chance and actually better positioning. The point hasn't even been captured yet, so Odd will be back in time for this fight. And now that means that they're actually going to find a little bit more value, as Amadian has been the catalyst for this fight. There's a couple of kills coming through. Nano boost from M. July and the nano boost on top.
The barrage, and he doesn't survive through that, unfortunately, and Team Livid have the upper advantage. They use the Transcendence to get that point pressure, and they chase Clarity off the point, and that should be first cap for Team Livid. And Odd now loses mech, and that's going to be even worse.
This was a really strange fight, back and forth in favor of who was actually at advantage, and with Livid coming out on top, but it is going to be, I think one of the things there is that Ultimates have been sort of the sore point here for both teams in how they've been executed. You can't be not getting value from Ultimates. Such a powerful ability is going to cost you time and again, and so far 3 Ultimates used, no kills come out. That's going to be why point A was taken initially by Team Livid.
The barriers drop from Ental. He moved forward with the Primal. Is about to knock everybody off the map. And now going after the Winston of Troll, who gets so low, he's like 1 HP, and Odd has to leave to self-destruct and finds a double kill. Bao and Saturn is out. Clarity can now engage off of this. Ultima Web has so much freedom. Just have to go after Salty, and the only 3 members remaining of Team Livid who just try to stall this out to at least 50%, but it's Clarity that get the retake.
That is a fascinating fight. Odd comes in with the self-destruct and Ultima Web uncontested, hits direct after direct. And one thing that's kind of an underrated play about Pharah is that even though her damage in terms of output is the same, or just how much damage her direct rockets do, something that she does so much better now is when she's hitting tanks. She hits them so quickly that if you're not paying attention, your health cooldown go awful quick. And Ultima Web has that barrage again. And again, another pick off from Madian means that this fight ends even before it even starts.
Yeah, Saturn, unlucky there. He had the Tracer at the start, goes to the McCree to help that hit scan pressure against Ultima Web, but it's Ultima Web finding those nice lines of sights onto Team Livid, who are now housed in this right side of the map, waiting for Saturn to get back, who switched back to the Tracer. We'll see how this one works out, and they'll have Self-Destruct and a Transcendence to guide them and help win out this fight. Self-Destruct into the back, and it should find Ana. No, ends up getting behind that corner, and the barrage from Ultima Web and the Nano Boost to keep him alive. An advantage starts to build here for Clarity as he finds 2 picks, but Odd loses mech. It's now a equal advantage as the tanks are taken out for Clarity, and Team Livid take that momentum and they go with it.
Oh boy, the Transcendence does actually do a lot of work there. Nullifies most, if not all, actually most of the damage from the barrage. Nano Boost goes down, of course, and on top of that, the tanks do a great job of zoning out. And with the tanks going down for Clarity, they're going to have to give the point up. And a retake is there for Livid. Now we're about even in terms of ult economy as we head to a switch up. Now it looks like Amadian onto the McCree, Ultima up onto the Brig as well, so with a little bit of changes from Clarity as we head here into this retake.
That Brigida's gonna mess Saturn up if he gets too close. Has to be much more careful of his mobility. As only Primal Rages from both sides. It's gonna be Troll that starts his, tosses everybody up, trying to get them out of position, but Tunks is doing the same thing to his team. You have to protect your supports, and it looks like Team Livid have that number advantage, but Amadian starts popping off on that McCree. You got Salty with the self-destruct, who sends that towards the back, along with the Transcendence that from Bao that keeps his teammates healed up. And Team Livid have taken control to 98 to 99% and gone 100 to 64 finish for Team Livid on this first map.
It's gonna be basically a mirror of what happened last match. It's gonna be Clarity though going down. It's such a interesting fight. They're unable to really find that early pick-off pressure that they need, and then they allow Livid back into the fights, right? Even when they have advantage, oftentimes Livid comes back in with one pick-off or a properly timed support ultimate, and Livid just fight it back. So Clarity not able to close these fights out, and it's going to cost them point number 1, stage number 1 complete, and to control center on number 2. So will we see that anti-tank composition that we or anti-goats composition into goats yet again? Something that Clarity has been content to run all night.
You got Ultimate Web back on his Doomfist, Amadian to the Hanzo. This is a known composition for Clarity, as Team Livid bring the triple tank, triple support with Ana to the field. And they're going to get Lucio speed boosted to the front by Antal, but it's the stunts from Rocker that's really shaking up Clarity as they take a back foot. They're getting anti-heal. They have to be careful. They find that pick onto Rocker, and you want to engage off of this. Clarity go towards server side, and they start to collapse onto Team Livid. But Amadian is down, a little bit less DPS coming in, but Clarity are still in full control.
Clarity are going to start taking the value here on point as Emjali goes down. So no healing aside from Owl's Lucio, but it may not matter here as kills are still coming in. Ultima Web doing so much damage on that Doomfist, and you know, without really any of the peel capabilities of whether you're D.Va or the Brig or whatever the case may be, Ultima Web able to be free to do as much damage as he wants, and that will be the finish of that fight. And now in good position in terms of ult economy as well. So both these teams about equal, but with point control already too.
Oh! The Shatter slams down and finds a bunch. Mainly that D-Mech is dealt with. And he didn't even have to use that Graviton from Odd, and Ultima Web's gonna Meteor Strike, but he gets dealt with, and actually both Gravitons come out, but it's the Dragon Strike from Clarity that makes it even bigger, and they will hold on to this point as Team Livid try to toss in their 3 remaining players to stall this one out, but it will be cleaned up pretty quickly.
I mean, it's a staggered out fight, and it's gonna allow recontest happening here, so I guess Livid sees that they have an opportunity. Earthshatter committed to no one. And Sound Barrier as well, trying to find as much time as possible. Troll is not having a good time, gets knocked down and slept. And this is actually going to be at the point switching over to Livid eventually.
Eventually. 3 hours later. Oh, Troll. If he would have pinned. Okay, now they're actually keep contesting this. This hasn't flipped over yet. Clarity has stalled this to almost 70%. 68, I called it. But Team Livid will finally get that flip.
Yeah, again, it is finally a flip. The fight took a little while. Ultimate does get a good stall in, and Troll, a good timing on his charge to get himself back on point. So they do find a little bit more time off, as you mentioned. But again, just unable to really commit properly, and they lose a little too many to be able to recontest in time. So now Clarity walking in to that self-destruct.
Oh, that boop actually got Troll out of the picture, and Amadian is down too. There's been great coordination from Rocker to open up these shields and allow Salty to blow everything up with these self-destructs.
Yeah, I mean, a stunned Reinhardt doesn't have his shield up, and the self-destruct is going to kill you no matter what you've got attached, and this nano boost is not going to be enough. Damage mitigation, not nearly enough damage reduction. And so now, another push ended.
Or maybe it was Antal. I don't know who to give credit to. There's so many boops happening as Clarity are, just sent in their their Dragon Strike, and it was the Graviton from Saturn that trapped Clarity at the doorway, and that was another clean fight win for Team Livid.
They do use both tank ultimates though, as the stun shatter not really working out there, not in time, as Dunks was unable to get the shatter off, and so they had to commit the Graviton as well, but it worked out, and so they will have that ultimate now no longer available.
And Odd is going towards a Graviton, and they got the DMAC onto Salty, who was out of position towards the left side, and Troll has a Shatter moving in, but they don't have a Brigida to open up Dunks' shield as easily, so he's going to be... Oh, but now that Dunks is out of position, he can shatter it down and goes after right off the map. Okay, that's an interesting pin. I don't think he expected that one. And Clarity will have to engage now without that, but they still have the Graviton from Odd, but you don't want to use it with only 2 people left. Team Livid have stalled this out to 97% plus before Clarity have retaken.
They are going to get back to them. We're going to get an interesting 100 to 100 fight, I think, here. 100 to 99 point here, regardless. Likely being the case if Odd can get a good Graviton surge up. But yeah, that was the boop was pretty funny to watch, the Reinhardt flying away.
Big oof. Oh, you got Rocker now with the nano boost. You do not want to mess with the raid boss called Brigida, and she will be messing everybody up going forward. Gets the triple kill. That is amazing. This is last fight territory, and a meteor strike from Ultima Web will be there to touch, but not for long, as Team Livid retake at 99%. Seconds away from making this a 2-0 series in this best of 5.
It is going to be, Troll is not going to be able to stay outside line of sight. Does get taken out by the self-destruct, and that will be the point ticking away. And I did call it. If Odd did not get a good Graviton off, it was going to be the end of the map, and the Graviton got eaten. And so the point will end, and it was off by 1%, 100 to 98. So very, very close, but it is going to be a 2-0 here so far for Livid, as we see Salty with that explosive play of the game, finding one.
That is a huge bomb. Okay, but he smacks everybody else, and Saturn actually pops out there too. So that was a very interesting start of the series. 2-0 for Team Livid. As we get into our halftime segment, we're going to re-invite our host, Green Havoc, in to tell us his thoughts about the match.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one to say the least. Team Livid coming out, and you know what? Their little top 500 emote or icon, showing up. They're talking the talk and they're walking the walk. So good for them. It would have been a little embarrassing if we were looking at 2-0 the other way after they were mad flexing. But I mean, for me, I will say Kings Row was an interesting map. It's always odd for me to start with the escorts, first like that, because there's such a tempo set as far as what you need to get going. So to start off a series that way is a little interesting. And I think it's kind of what's allowed this steamroll to happen for Team Livid. And I kind of want to know, when you're watching this game and you're watching how close that third point was to seeing another round potentially for both of these teams on Kings Row, what goes through your head, or what goes through their heads, do you think, when they fall just ever so short of a goal like that? LaFell, we'll start with you. LaFawn, sorry.
I mean, we're becoming more and more of a cast repair as time goes on. It's by the end of it, you won't know which of us is talking. That
Who
being
is
said,
who?
yeah.
Thanks. You saying I have a guy voice? Anyway, continue.
I mean, never mind. That to the game though. I think one of the things you're not even thinking about it, right? You cannot give yourself that opportunity to think about, oh, we're gonna go back for a second. You gotta finish the map first, and so you're really focusing on what you have to do as a team to make that happen. I think for clarity, it's disappointing, yes, but they don't even get to that stage. So I don't think they ever really think about re-attacking. It's all about what's happening in the moment. Okay, we have to get this next point first. You don't even think about the end of the map. You think about, okay, point by point by point. And I think that's what you really have to do. Focus on what's the important target, important task at hand before even going further than that. So I would be very surprised, if you're thinking about trying to attack afterwards. You got to really put all of your focus on what's in front of you, because you got to know the other team is doing that. And if you don't have your full focus, then it becomes a case where you're just going to lose right off, unless you're so mechanically superior that you don't even need to worry about it.
I think both teams had a very slow Kings Row start. Yeah, we had a winner of Team Livid, but they finished with 10 seconds left. I think both teams were better at defense than offense, which is usually the opposite of what you would usually say. Some people don't know how to coordinate their defense. They don't know how to reset. They don't know when to engage and when to disconnect from a fight. And both teams were way better at their defense because Team Livid finished with only 10 seconds. So that means a very good defense from Clarity, and Clarity just barely finished the map. So a very good defense from Team Livid. And then we go on to Control, where it was at least much closer, and Clarity actually looked like they were getting a hold of things, especially on that control center when it got to 99%. But it was Team Livid that kept that composure that you're talking about, Green Havoc.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was a little surprised about is I was surprised Clarity's defense for that control map. They didn't look like they had a plan more than just what was right in front of them. It was like you were talking about it, Lafon, about they needed to hit the grab. To me, it looked like they had that, and they didn't have like a, well, what if, after that, and it just looked like it didn't get the value it needed, and so they just kind of got rolled off the point. Now, and obviously ults are a big part of the game, so no selling Clarity short. But do you think there is maybe a little bit of a not that next level of planning for the way they're approaching?
That's what separates the good teams from the bad teams and the great teams from the good teams, right? It's that level of secondary and tertiary planning. If you don't have those, then it's tough to sometimes to compete. Keep in mind, a lot of teams, it's very easy to have a plan based on ultimates, right? Because at that point, it's just execution and making sure that they don't have ultimates that can counter yours, right? The Graviton Dragon Strike combo. Okay, they don't have Transcendence on the field. They don't have a Diva. We launch it, we win. It's that simple. It's what separates the really, really good teams, though, from that is that, okay, we don't have Graviton Surge. We know they have Transcendence, and you start building plans off that. And I'm not necessarily sure if these teams are at that stage yet where they can have those secondary, tertiary, even beyond plans. And oftentimes the joke is made, oh, we're playing checkers while they're playing chess. But it is, in fact, the case. When you're playing chess, right, you got to think moves ahead. Always. You can't be one step ahead, two step ahead. You have to be multiple steps ahead. And right now, it seems like Clarity isn't yet doing that. And Livid has been able to take advantage of it.
And another point I want to mention too, that advantage that Team Livid had is playing Rocker on the Brigida a lot more. This is forcing just the other team to play around that. They didn't really run a Brigida of their own, so this enabled dunks a lot more on this Reinhardt and stuff like that. So you got to also have to have that Brigida player when you're playing these tankier types of compositions to be able to enable these ultimates a lot better.
Very true. A collaborative deep breath has been taken. Both of these teams got a small chance here to regroup, talk about what they want to do moving forward, and who gets to move on to the next round and who is sent packing home. And Lafon, we didn't get to hear your voice as much as we would have liked in our pre-show. So I'm going to ask, are you sticking with the pick Lemon gave you, or do you want to make up your own mind?
I mean, I have a built-in excuse no matter what happens here. So I'm gonna stick with it and go from it. But to be quite clear, Livid has been the better team in this series. To see them walking away with even a 3-0 would not be surprising to me at all.
All right, Lemon, any final thoughts before we head on over to Route 66 for map 3 of this series?
It's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to see Saturn on this Cowboy and see if he'll have a better showing, because that McCree, he keeps switching off of it. He keeps going Tracer and McCree and these other things, and I'm wondering when he's gonna find his hole. And I think, a map based on McCree, that the Cowboy Wild West. I think this is where he's gonna pop off. I have some faith.
All right. Well, it is time for me to bow out and hand the show back over to you and the teams that we have competing as we head on over to Route 66. Good luck to the teams and casters. I hope you're ready.
Oh, we're ready. Get into this. Maybe the last leg of this best of 5. It's 2-0 for Team Livid. And this is the loser's side of the bracket, everybody. So the loser will stay home, go home, out of the tournament, whatever you want to call it. And the winner moves on to losers round 5, or the last leg of losers, where they will face the loser of Looking for Team and Path to Poverty. And then if they win that match, they get to go to grand finals. So this is the losers bracket run, everybody. And this could be Clarity's last map of the tournament, as we are waiting for Route 66 to start on up. But do you have any faith that maybe Clarity could turn this around, or how are they going to turn this around?
There are times where you're in a game and you're like, there's no way this team's going to turn it around. Like, there's absolutely no chance for them. I don't think this is it, because Clarity has been pretty close on all these maps. I think perhaps Control was a little bit less close than Clarity would have enjoyed, but that being Lijiang Tower, of course. But King's Row was as close as you like. 10-second difference between the teams. And on top of that, it was basically every time it was one fight difference between completing the map or not. So I'm not really sure that Livid is so far and away better than Clarity that they're definitely going to win. They are the better team here so far, but it has not been a stomp to the same level as some of the other games that have happened here in this tournament.
That would be quite a crazy rematch, because Path to Poverty was the team that knocked Team Livid into the losers bracket, and Looking for Team was the team that put Clarity into the losers bracket. So whichever team wins this series, of course, is very favoring Team Livid right now with the 2-0. You're gonna have that rematch possibly later on, whether it's in the grand finals or whether it's in the next match coming up. This is the last match of the day, so make sure you guys check out tomorrow's stream for the conclusion of this tournament. Lots of, pride and a bit of money on the line too, but this has been a great tournament to get everybody together and have this foundation and have this platform for people to flex their top 500 muscles.
I mean, winning is always fun, right? Like, I mean, if you had a choice between winning and losing, you pretty much would almost always choose winning.
Are you sure?
I would almost always choose winning for sure.
Losing is learning, though. I don't know, but you kind of
I mean, losing does help. You can learn by losing, sure, but winning feels a lot better.
But do you learn from winning?
Yeah, you can. There's no such thing as a perfect game, and even in a perfect game, there's things to learn about. So I would say that yes, even when you win, there is stuff you can learn from it, take from it, expand from it. Like there's no such thing as a perfect team, and I don't think there ever will be. So
what?
Going from that,
You're saying the Dallas Fuel isn't perfect?
You can't see it, but I am actually wearing
You
a
can
Dallas
think
Fuel
it.
jersey
What?
on right now. Yeah.
Ah,
They're very comfortable, actually.
I'm very jealous.
I will say this: pretty much all the Overwatch League gear, super comfortable.
Very comfortable, and you guys should go and check that gear out. And the Overwatch World Cup jerseys are also on sale. Fun fact. And they're not even paying me to say this, so you guys should definitely go check it out now.
I'm just saying, Team Canada's a lovely team. I hear they're wonderful this time of year.
We're both from Canada, guys, so we're going to be obviously biased towards USA's hat. So
yeah. This conversation brought to you by the fact that we're getting into the map very shortly. A little bit of behind the scenes issues from these teams. So when we get into it, we'll be sure to bring you all the action.
So Clarity is great at rotating, but they're also great at rotating their players often on the potty, because one player leaves and then the other player has to go to the bathroom. And then we keep getting this rotation of stuff going on. So we will get into map 3 very shortly, but you do know it's Route 66. So yeah. I don't think we need to bore you with all the things that you guys know we could see on Route 66. So we're just messing around.
I think the most irritating thing about Route 66, if I ever had to go there, would be their coffee. I'm a huge coffee fan.
What?
Yeah, coffee's so good. Well, not Route 66 coffee specifically, but coffee in general.
I've been to Route 66, and it's actually not as cool as this map makes it look. It's just the road. So I hope I killed everyone's dreams about visiting Route 66.
See, I haven't been in the States very often. I just went to New York most of the time. So you've already destroyed some of my dreams, Lemon. So
It's a lot of broken houses. There's no big girls. Maybe there is. I haven't been on the entirety of Route 66. I took a bus trip through it, and it's a road in a desert, and it's pretty cool, I guess.
The word desert is like the anathema to my actual. I cannot stand the heat. Such a terrible time. Give me the cold all year long.
You got that Canadian skin. You got that fur building up. You know,
it's a +1 +1 cold resistance. Here.
Right? And there's no sun in Canada. Fun fact. There is a sun, but there's no
true. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's
not true.
There'd be a sun
and there'd be summer, but there's never, ever, ever above like 30 degrees Celsius. At least where I was from. But I was from the north of Canada.
Yeah, no, I can guarantee that there is higher temperatures in Canada than 30. This summer, we actually hit 41 degrees Celsius.
What?
I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's hot. It's very hot.
It's like 100. Yeah, to the Americans, that's sweaty. That's sweaty for Canada, which is probably not that sweaty for here.
I suppose if you live in the desert and like just stay outside all day, it's not that hot. But for me, I prefer like -20 degrees Celsius. So.
Well, I live in Nevada, and it's actually a danger to go outside in the summer because you will die.
Yeah, don't do that. Dying from heat seems like a terrible way to go.
Well, let's see what Team Livid do on their offense now. I prefer not to, but Team Livid, oh, this is an interesting new look. You got the Doomfist Genji dive, and Clarity have a dive of their own, but with a Brigida triple support, and they'll have a Madian on the McCree.
Most interestingly, is there's no Sombra. Something that has become a staple of this map is the dive engages, Troll getting first kill. And this is going to spell a bit of a retreat here for the attacking team.
You have to be careful if you're Doomfist. Yeah, he's a really powerful character or hero in this meta right now, but you have to still be aware of your cooldowns and how far and how deep you go in. And we saw that mistake from Amadian and from Rocker now. And Team Livid will go again.
Go again indeed. As Troll playing close, speaking of monkeys. Blinga gets slept though, and out of position, doesn't have his cooldown. It's going to be a reset here, Lemon. Troll getting killed right away.
And they lost Saturn, but they can still go off of this, and now they can focus all their attention on Odd, getting him out of mech, but it's Ultimate Web that replaces that frontline hero. And a bit of a high noon already from Amadi and into the back, and it finds Antal. And Clarity have stifled this push yet again.
Yeah, it's a very messy fight. I mean, Troll, perhaps living up to his name, a bit of a bait there, jumps in, gets slept, gets killed. But it opens up the opportunity for the defense to actually find the final blows, and it's going to be, another hold. So some switching coming through from the offense as Dunks and Saturn switch over, and they're going to go to that tank composition known as Goats.
Self-destruct from the defense into the back, and Ultima Web could have maybe gone for that bash, but too far away. Don't want to be too risky. The Nano is on the Brigida. The raid boss himself showed up to the fight. Rocker isn't finding too much though, but Clarity are starting to retreat now that they've lost Ultima Web, but Team Livid have lost their two front tanks, so this has been a huge struggle for Team Livid to get any traction here.
They're still winning it out kind of slowly. The respawns, of course, do favor the offense here. As High Noon committed yet again, it's going to find the kill and the break on the shield. Rocker getting hit by that Primal Rage.
Almost got hit by that self-destruct. Amadian's popping off onto this McCree, and we just heard that Deadeye not too long ago, so you know he's hitting his shots. Clarity holding this defense, and they almost lost it. But Team Livid, Team Livid having the closer spawns, they're trying to get a good foot on this payload again, and the dive from the Clarity setup back on the top Earls, and no Graviton yet from Saturn. It's taking a while to build up.
Saturn, they're going to commit Transcendence early. July, they want to dive in off that, but again, such a weird fight here, Lemon. As they're starting to build the Earthshatter up, it's going to hit down Odd, but Sound Barrier's there.
And Team Livid getting that traction they so desperately needed, getting that D-Mech onto Odd, and Troll is the last one on the list. And Team Livid have also leftover ultimates. It's Amadian into the back. He gets sniped in the middle of that Deadeye. He's had 3 though so far.
I mean, when you're doing a lot of damage, you build your ultimates really quickly, and Amadian will switch off the McCree to the Sombra, as we kind of expected earlier. But it's going to be now Ultima Web. I assume resetting for his team. There's no other reason he could possibly have jumped off the map. As point A will be taken, point 1 rather, will be taken by Livid. A decent amount of time taken off the clock, though, as Clarity setting up yet again on defense.
Well, Graviton, self-destruct, you have all kinds of ultimates that this offense can use, and this Somber from Amadian, I mean, he was really popping off in the McCree, so I'm kind of surprised to see that. They're trying a different strategy. He misses that hack. The Graviton is launched from Saturn, and it's not catching much. It was only Troll really that dove, and Salty threw out the self-destruct, gets rid of MJuly. It's a lot of healing gone from the defense, and Team Livid decide to use that Sound Barrier, so they have won out this fight, but quite a few ultimates, in fact, after that.
I mean, I'm not sure what the Graviton Surge was really committing to. Perhaps wanting to lock in Troll with the with that self-destruct, perhaps. But again, using more ultimates as a result. They used 3, as the Sound Barrier had to come in right after the fact. And this is going to give an opportunity now, with the rally being committed, for the dive on the defense.
One Troll kind of dove in by himself, but he has the Primal Rage to save himself, destruct into the back, and it finds Saturn. So Team Livid now using the Transcendence to keep their forces alive and well as Clarity start to surround them in all angles, taking that high ground. But Amadian going down early is not going to be a good start to Clarity as they try to get their forces grouped up onto the high ground, and Team Livid keep up that card pressure. And they lose Salty's mech and Salty entirely as Troll receives the nano and now goes forward towards all those anti-healed heroes, and Clarity, thankfully, or at least barely, just won that fight.
Yeah, it's gonna be you know what? That was a really, really clean play on terms of what Troll and MJuly comboed out to do. The Bionade into the nanoed Winston, and that just is an absolute disaster. Too much damage, too quickly, and it's going to be a hold. Gonna have to look out here. Amadian does have that EMP, and this tank composition groups up quite a bit, so and there it's going to be committed right away.
Drops the EMP, Rocker is anti-nated, and he gets dealt with, so Team Livid have lost their supports entirely, and that will mean disaster for the rest that want any sort of healing. So Team Livid will have to reset, and it's down to the last 50 seconds. We'll see if they can actually even complete Route 66.
It's gonna be close. Saturn does have that Graviton Surge, but other than that, the defense now has a lot to work with. They're gonna have basically 5 ultimates in this next fight. Meanwhile, the offense struggling to build up to those support ultimates. Perhaps Bao getting that Transcendence could be the key in this fight.
Okay, they're going towards the left, and they're getting speed boost, a bit of a different route, but they walk into a solo grab. It's actually Team Livid that threw out the grab and only traps 2. Now Bao is here with the Transcendence to keep this fight inside of the bar alive and well, and Primal Rage from Troll tries to keep himself alive, but this has been a very chaotic fight. I don't even know where the camera's even looking at because it's taking place all over the place of this map. Team Livid now have 3 seconds to get their stuff together because it's about to hit overtime, and thankfully they've just barely won this fight, but Clarity are starting to re-engage.
Clarity are slowly building themselves in. They're getting the respawns here. The Earthshatter committed? I can't say it was committed to anyone specifically because it didn't look to be anyone. That being said, the Nano Boost committed yet again. MJuly building up in that last fight. EMP right after that. Is the follow-up damage there though, Lemon? As the kills are slowly eking out towards Clarity's side.
Oh, just barely missing that Meteor Strike on the Bao, who fades out, and overtime still into effect, and Clarity have burned a lot of time off the clock, but they didn't turn that EMP Ultimate Bonanza into a winning fight, and Saturn throws out the grab just because he's very sick of fighting. I want to get to point B, and I'm gonna double grab your tanks, although I didn't need to.
They get a minute 26 towards third point. That's not a lot of time. Route 66 third. It's one of the hardest points to capture in the game, and a minute 20, not a lot. So there is going to be an opportunity here. And on top of that, not only is it not a lot of time, a lot of ultimates were also used. So Saturn did actually have to commit that Graviton Surge because there was no way. Like, there was a lot of stall coming in. They actually starting to build ultimates up too. And now an early entrance with the tank comp here from Clarity.
And they start to build some space with Salty's self-destruct up into the front, but they have this dive. They need to occupy more space. They're turtling onto this payload. When they get these kills, you need to push forward and build that space even more. And Clarity switching to this Ryan Zarya. And I don't know what their plan is. They're hiding away, going towards the left side. and looking for the damage to collapse onto this dive and almost diving themselves the last 30 seconds. This is the last fight. Dunks has to hop out of there, got really low, and they can't afford to lose any more members. Saturn takes care of Ultima Web, and you have the nano boost onto Oda, starts melting away all the tanks, but you have to protect Dunks. And it's going to be Clarity that are protected here with the sound barrier. But they lost Troll early, and Team Livid start to bring that momentum up until the end of point C of Route 66, and the Dragon Strike starts to divide the map. But do Clarity have enough members of this defense to keep it up? They've cleared in all the entirety of Team Livid, and overtime will dwindle away, and Team Livid will not finish the map.
They don't finish the map, as you mentioned, but it's so close, and there were multiple times where Clarity looked like they were going to hold at earlier points and just couldn't close it out. So, yes, it's not a full cap of the map, but Clarity still got to be a little bit disappointed in the fact that they couldn't hold first and they couldn't hold second when it looked like they had the opportunity to do so. Now, Livid has the chance to close it out. 2 points, yes, not a lot if you're, thinking about a map that can be gone through really quickly. But here on Route 6, with how hard first and third are to capture, that could be plenty for Livid to seal the deal here in this best of 5. Again, this is the last map possibly for Clarity if they don't bring it back. And now on their attack run, you're gonna have to do it with pretty convincing fashion, I think, to keep their hopes alive.
It is 2-0 for Team Livid, so this puts Clarity in a really good position. If they can finish the map, they can make the series at least 2-1, then you can start the comeback train. So let us know in chat who you're cheering for. Is it Team Clarity or is it Team Livid? Because the loser goes home or stays home, and the winner will move on to face the loser of, I think it was Looking for Team and Path to Poverty, which I don't think that match has been updated quite yet. I'm so excited to see how the tournament's going to end out. And yes, I made a mistake. The matches are on Monday. I keep thinking tournaments are going to follow up, but this one actually takes place on Monday, so you get a bit of a break until you get the fireworks of a conclusion to this tournament.
Hey, I mean, shout out to the tournament organizers. Mondays can be a bit of a bear, so to have them have a little bit of excitement at the end of your day, it's always good. It's always fun. And so, but let's rewind a little bit. The grand finals haven't been set yet. We do have this match to go through. Oh. And Clarity taking the high ground. A little bit of a dive, but the hook comes through, and M. July somehow not dying.
Quad tank defense, Moira, Lucio. I'm loving this. Rocker, usually on the Brigitte, will be on the Roadhog, which is not a hero you see all too often. And Clarity trying to get a hop on this one. Running dive, running this Brigitte, trying to stun these tanks. And surprisingly, Team Livid have lost their, I believe it's their Reinhardt and their Zarya. And they're starting to dwindle away, which is not what you usually see when you're running quad tank.
Again, if they get zoned out, the healers are unable to really heal that front line up, and a couple of good stuns from both Ultima Web and Amadian. And of course, the damage throughput of those heroes means that they're able to win that fight out. And now, the question remains, will they stick with that quad tank here? Livid, they seem to be doing so. As Clarity set up the cart moving forward.
They're coming towards the top. It's going to be scary when quad tank jumps on top of you. And Clarity start out the rally already. That's a ton of healing going in with their triple support. The Deadeye into the back from Amadian. I don't think it's going to find much, but they have pushed Team Livid all into this tiny little cave as the Primal Rage from Troll makes sure to keep them in there. And meanwhile, the cart is pushing for Clarity, and not really anyone from Team Livid can say anything about it as they finally break out of that cave. But they get dealt with again, and this is very surprising to see quad tank fail this hard.
The one thing that quad tank kind of actually struggles with is damage output. They exist for a long time and sort of wear you down, but the problem is that the comp that Clarity are running actually has a lot of sustain. They're able to stay up as long as they'd like, and the better positioning capabilities from the tanks on this composition and the range damage from Amadian means that the quad tank can't really engage that aggressively, and this has been struggling now. Livid have to try and take an early fight.
Oh, self-destruct. That's an early fight win, it seems. Troll is down and no shields for Clarity. They have to be careful. Oh, a bit of an overinvestment. Use the Sound Barrier and the Transcendence at the same time. And the Saturn just used the Gravitons. So this is a one fight for Team Livid, and Clarity used quite a bit to make nothing happen.
That is, yeah, I mean, you used both support ultimates in sync, actually. So, if anything, perhaps it's good communication. Both supports realized that there was the call for some defensive ultimates, and both of them responded instantly.
Got it.
I am 100% being sarcastic. You rarely want a double support ultimate.
Self-destruct, it breaks Dunks' shield, and you got the whole hog from Rocker pushing everybody back. The Shatter, I don't think found much there as the Deadeye on the field from Amadian, just trying to zone off this payload. Clarity trying to get a foot onto this payload. It's 3 minutes and 30. Team Livid playing such a close defense with this quad tank, and it's the tanks from Clarity that are dealt with again. So Team Livid will win this fight again.
And this is the difference between earlier in the map and now. The long-range damage, the ability to pressure down the tanks from afar when to zone them out isn't available when the cart is being stopped basically inside a choke point where all the tanks can just play in a brawl engagement and use all their cooldowns effectively. And now Clarity is going to have to play something really strange and aggressive to try and get through.
Another Graviton from Saturn traps Gravity Clarity as they feel in the pressures of gravity as they start to fall back to spawn, and there hasn't been an answer, and Clarity holding on to the Primal Rage. They're holding on to the Transcendence. They want a clean fight, and Team Livid, their quad tank is starting to really harden here.
The thing here, though, is that Amadi on the flank picked up the kill on the D.Va, and on top of that, forced the self-destruct out. Rocker gets a final blow, but it's going to open up the entrance a little bit here, getting back into sort of the more open areas now. There's a couple of kills coming from Rocker to stall them out, so this may actually end up not working out at the end, as Ultimate Weapon in the backline, not finding any final blows, but it's going to have to be a reset here as Rocker continues to light the kill feed up. Troll with a Primal Rage here, Lemon.
Troll is trolling.
He is definitely feeding ult charge. I will give him that. An excellent showing in terms of the Winston. How best to use the Winston Primal Rage? Look at that clip and say entirely the opposite.
He was just hanging out back there, trying to get your cooldowns out. Forehead, no, that's definitely not what he was doing. But now it's a different swap from Clarity. They'll have the Pharah and still Amadian, who's going towards the back, and he has a Deadeye. Keep an eye on him. A Transcendence, meanwhile, from M. July keeps his tanks alive. And now they push Team Livid in this tiny corner. The Shatter doesn't find much. Amadian lets out the Deadeye very quickly. Not enough damage to pierce through these very chunky tanks from Team Livid. And there's been very little progress made and even shorter distance made now that Clarity have to reset again.
Odd is finding... Oh, Bao is pretty kind there. Ends the stagger before it even starts. Would have been pretty tough, actually, for Odd to get off the map. It's pretty far away. So Bao does him a favor, and there's going to be a couple of switches out now. Troll.
The May.
A trowel is an entirely different thing. It's more of a shovel than anything. But Troll switches over to the Reinhardt. As far as I'm aware, Ryan doesn't have a shovel on his person.
Well, they'll be digging themselves a hole very soon. There's a minute left, and now a self-destruct kind of stalls them out, and Odd, while he was throwing his self-destruct, got killed by that self-destruct, and you got an anti-heal onto Dunks, and he's dealt with. Clarity, the walls have been nice to kind of separate these members from Team Livid and to shield themselves when Troll is missing. But just now have they gotten their foot on the gas pedal. It's down to the last 38 seconds, and there'll still be one more engagement before the end of point B.
This is going to be an interesting last fight. Earthshatter versus Graviton Surge, which is going to be more valuable? Saturn does have that Graviton Surge for Livid. Troll building up to the Shatter here. 20 seconds remaining. So if Livid is able to full hold, they punch their ticket to the next round and knock Clarity out. Clarity, they have to get all the way through as Rocker gets walled off, but I don't think they know that. And it's going to have to be this last fight coming into play.
Saturn has the Graviton. It only traps Troll, but he gets pinned into inside of a bar, and there's a bit of a bar fight going on. Oh no, the Solar Shatter. Troll, you did it. You didn't do that to me. And Amadian throws his own Graviton, and Team Livid are trapped. And it's finally Clarity holding on to that gas pedal as they go through to the end of point B.
Overtime is going to actually end here, so both teams start third point off with the same amount of time, 1 minute 20. As we are headed in, and again that cart does not have to go much further. It does not hit just that nearly the end of the map, and not much to work with here except for the blizzard from Ultimate Web.
I'm liking this blizzard. Have to be careful that Salty doesn't eat it, and it goes down onto the payload, and this gives Clarity some free space to work with, but all Team Livid have to do is not be in the blizzard, and they'll survive it just fine. But Ultimate Web puts the wall up. It separates these members from Team Livid that are trying to get a good hold of this payload. But Clarity have won a third consecutive team fight win. 45 seconds left. A yellow box of victory is in their sight. This next fight will determine if Team Livid move on in this bracket or if Clarity have another chance to make a comeback.
Self-destruct self-destruct Earth Shatter, and Rally available here now for the defense. So Livid setting up for that last fight, and it's going to be the Earth Shatter committed here. Lemon doesn't find value.
It's blocked. Amadian throughout the grab. It traps a few of the members, and the self-destruct is blocked, so it won't end up turning into a bunch of kills. But they're still trying to raid in some damage, and they use, actually it's the defense that used the barrier as Clarity try to get a hold of this payload, and now the nano is onto Salty. There is so much chaos onto this payload, but Clarity have just built this fortress around the payload, and what an anti-heal onto the defense. This gets the DMEC onto Salty, and now all they can do is trickle back to the payload. Is it enough to get the kills rolling in their favor? Team Livid don't have any more options, and Clarity will finish the map and make this a 2-1 series.
So, does the comeback start here? And well, it looks like it, as the first map does go back to them. So 2-1, play of the game in progress, and Clarity have got to be breathing a sigh of relief. That was a really, really well played last half of the map. The Mei pick so important in shutting down that quad tank composition that Livid was running through the majority of this map. And just, you know, as you mentioned, zoning out whether it be the healers or the tanks, the freeze to nullify any sort of mobility from whoever is playing that front line. It's so frustrating to play against. And again, Clarity take that map victory. Route 66 going their way, and now map number 4 is gonna be an interesting one for sure.
I just can't believe Clarity won that. Like, we casted over, I feel like, a 30-year offense at the very start of point B, and they just were trapped there. And at first, Team Livid's quad tank just got rolled on point A, and then all of a sudden, they turned their gears. I don't know what happened in terms of communication or their style. Maybe that area of the map was easier for them to play in, but Clarity just wasted so many minutes at the start of point B, and then they just didn't stop. They just never lost a fight after that. I don't know how these gears keep turning in all these teams' favors, but it's been so back and forth.
It has been back and forth. I think one of the things to note there is that the composition that Clarity was running on first point B it's so tough to make it work inside that choke point, because keep in mind the key to dive is mobility. You want to take advantage of it, and inside a choke point you kind of struggle to do that. It's really tough to engage aggressively when the choices you've got are bad or worse. And so that means that the quad tank composition that Livid was able to, sort of abuse against them worked out really well, because quad tank doesn't move very fast. And so when it makes a decision, it's sort of stuck there. And unfortunately, it works out for the moment. But then Clarity, they do take a little bit of faith from their name, make better switches, better choices in terms of their team composition, and then execute well on top of that. So they're able to, run through the remainder of the map, taking that victory there for themselves and bringing us to our map number 4.
That was just a really cool Mei swap. When all else fails, I think they went through plan B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and then they're like, all right, you know what we haven't tried? Mei. And I bet you if that didn't work, they probably would have went Symmetra. Because then at what point, like, you keep insanity, you keep trying things and they don't work, expecting a different result. Now they're trying Mei, and it definitely got a different result. They focused a lot of their freezing onto the Roadhog. I think that was Rocker, and just slowing down the quad tank, I think really allowed Clarity to focus in their damage and focus their target selection.
There's a lot to unpack there, and you could spend a lot of time analyzing just why certain comps work better against the others. I want to take a moment, though, and shout out EU, the European region, for teaching us the wonders of quad tank.
Thanks, Europe.
Europe, you're lovely and wonderful, and please stop running tanks.
What?
Tanks are
Come on.
I'm biased. I like seeing dive, even after all that amount of time.
It was such weird that like the quad tank didn't work, and then it worked, and then it didn't work. It was this bipolar thing going on of one team just doing really bad and then doing really good, and it's just the communication, that composure that a team can bring to be able to finally figure out what they're doing wrong and execute it properly. So it's really shout out to Clarity to keep that all together.
Yeah, again, it's a mark of a good team to change their playstyle, to change their mentality midway through a match. It's really tough to do. We talked about it earlier. We talked about it in their previous match, actually, against We Showed Up. But to see Clarity become a better team halfway through the match has been a pretty positive thing.
Well, I think we're going to go throw it to a quick break to make sure our players are ready to go for map number 4 between Team Livid and Clarity. Welcome back, everybody, to Team Livid versus Clarity in the losers bracket, close to the finals, as it's 2-1 in favor of Team Livid, as Clarity just took that Route 66, but we're here on Oasis, where maybe Clarity are starting a comeback.
You know, I would be very grateful if these teams could go somewhere cold. It's been sunny maps all day long, from the desert back to the desert, and Garden on Oasis there, Lemon. And an early pickoff again starts this fight.
Wow, this was an early fight start. We haven't even gotten the comps, but it's what they usually run. You got the dive with the triple support and Amanian on the McCree, and Team Livid with their own McCree and similar setup.
It's going to be really interesting in how they bring this one back, because they're going to be able to recontest here. The point does take over in Ultima Web's favor. I suppose that is partially true, but in Clarity's favor, as a couple of kills coming through for Livid though.
Team Livid just running after these members. Odd is about to lose mech. No tanks remaining for Clarity, as they did get that first take, so they did accumulate almost 16, 17, 18, 19. That's gonna be it. And Team Livid get the retake.
We should have a children's series, Counting with Lemon Kiwi.
How many heroes are left? 1, 0.
I was about to say for Clarity was 0. They're gonna walk into this high noon here. Saturn already building it, commits it. No kills coming through here, Lemon Kiwi, is this fight again.
Wow.
Slowly going in Livid's favor.
Look at that focus fire from Team Livid. When they see someone out of position, they see someone low, they just pounce on it. It's so good to see, and they'll be extending their lead here.
Yeah, I mean, One of the things to note is when you lose a fight that early on, it doesn't actually, like, they were willing to give up that point percentage because they knew they could come back in with respawns and better positioning. So, you know, find themselves a little bit more positioning power as, again, Clarity walking in.
Oh, self-destruct into those sides, and a Transcendence committed from Team Livid, and also from Clarity, as Clarity really need a retake here. They've been stomped on a few times now at the start of this map, and a Sound Bearer committed here from Team Livid, as a Primal Rage goes in from Troll, trying to dislodge everybody, and a self-destruct divides and does not conquer much, as Team Livid keep extending their percentage points, and Clarity don't seem to be building any sort of momentum from this.
They're gonna... Oh man, poor Clarity. You gotta laugh at that fight. One of the things is they use a lot of resources, and they actually have advantage a couple times, but it seems that whatever Clarity throws at them, Livid is right back there, and the kitchen sink never gets thrown out from Livid. They're able to really hold back some of their ultimates, and they're gonna get a little bit more value here. Now in the 90% range as Saturn commits that high noon.
Still looking at it, still holding, and gets nothing. A nice barrier that also protects Saturn during that ultimate. As Clarity now want to engage, they get Saturn as soon as he drops down, and that's how you want to use a Brigitte. Great shots from Ultima Weapon. Finally, Clarity get that retake.
It was, yeah, off the back, Abjulight does a great job of hitting a right click, I believe, on Dunks, and shreds him before any sort of contest can happen. And then Ultima Weapon with the Brigitte off the rally. A little bit of space created, and it's gonna be a lot of work to go though. They do have that 97%.
Oh,
Primal Rage is gonna commit. Amadian, goodbye.
Later, goodbye, and he's going after Odd too, but he has some boosters at the back of his mech. So Clarity now have to invest their Transcendence and Eco Transcendence from Bao. So it's always these long fights, and Clarity need to build themselves up. If Team Livid win this fight, they will take this first map of Oasis, and it looks like that will be the case.
So I think we can count this map down now.
3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
I think we're a couple of months off the Happy New Year, but for Team Livid,
damn it.
they'll be
I also thought
content
Monday
with
was
the
tomorrow,
one.
so I don't know where I am anymore.
Hey, I mean, it could be Monday in some part of the world. I don't think that's how days work, but
Like what, on another planet?
perhaps they use the same day schedule we do. I don't know.
Maybe on
Or
Mars.
the same
it's
day
Monday.
names and a different schedule would probably be more accurate.
But
Livid would not be. Livid, I think, is pretty pleased with the end of that particular round, as they're able to just cleanly win out that fight, a much cleaner engage, and they win themselves point number 1 and put themselves at match point here in our match, or at the series to boot.
Did you? Nah, you didn't say boot. I'll pretend I didn't hear that. And I'm pretending now to see this Goats come out. Clarity's bringing that out, and Team Livid will have the Zenyatta instead of the Moira. So keep that in mind as this first engagement goes in. Ultimate Web gets stunned out of position, and Amadian goes for a very healthy pin and is pretty low himself, but has warded Team Livid off of the point as Dunks goes for his own pin and very low himself. So it's very fun to spectate Goats because it takes a long time for people to die with these triple supports.
Interestingly, this fight's going to slowly win out, likely for Livid, as Salty picks up another kill. Counter Moira ultimates, neither one going to do anything more than heal. And it's going to slowly capture point percentage. This fight is still kind of ongoing. As, yeah, Rocker with that kill will likely cement the hold for Livid. I want to talk a little bit about what... well, maybe they'll give me an opportunity soon, Lemon, because this fight is still going.
Troll is trolling. He's doing that thing where he primals to show off his muscles. It's very nice.
You know what? You just keep going. Keep this fight going.
We'll keep it going, but not very long because they just got grabbed, self-destruct into the back, and it finds a triple kill. Team Livid will hold on to this point.
Give me that team kill. Give me that GOG. There it is. Thank you, Athena. I really appreciate that. I wonder if Amadian's going to stick on this Reinhardt. This is the same. I think this is a very similar comp to what Team USA ran at World Cup on this particular point. It was double main tank with Zarya in play. So Amadian, not normally known as a Ryan player, running him here, does have that Earth Shatter. Really be able to get a good one off here.
And that Coalescence adds that lane pressure and hits a huge shatter, but they need to follow up into it. They throw the grab, or The grab from Odd, actually, for good measure. And Team Livid, though, they keep rolling onto these ultimates, so Clarity just used a Shatter and a grab and a Coalescence and still lost the fight.
That is not a good look. You never want to have your tank ultimates, both of them be used, and support ultimate, and get no value, and that signals a change here. Odd going to stay Zarya. It looks like, yeah, Control switching off the Ryan, or off the Winston to the Reinhardt. They're going to be running that anti-tank comp that we've seen from them all night long when this is running into Goats. Saturn, though, with that Graviton Surge, it could be disastrous for them here.
And that disaster is happening right now, but the Sound Bearer might able to keep them alive as Clarity now want to engage, but the Transcendence kind of stops that from happening, and Troll has to wait for this to be done and charges nothing. Thought someone was going to come out there and self-destruct from Salty, clears the point and finds Ultima Web 2, so Clarity have to use the Coalescence. They try to pressure the point. It's now in overtime. Team Livid, if they win this fight, they will win the series, and Clarity have to keep on to the point though, as only the supports are remaining. The Dragon Strike from Amadi and helps Odd get onto this point. They get the teammate onto Salty, but is this enough for Clarity or enough time for reinforcements to come in? Team Livid have cleared the point, and they will take Oasis along with the series. 3, 2, 1.
I think our counting continues here as the series does end with that scoreline.
I hate you so much.
That being said, that is going to be that monster self-destruct with the triple kill. Finds 3, and then, of course, the cleanup afterwards for the 6K. And Troll will finally have time to go finish his homework.
I think he failed it by now.
Maybe his teachers are quite nice. You don't know.
Hey, Miss Teach, I had a Overwatch tournament. For our post-game thoughts, Team Livid of Clear versus Clarity, 3 to 1. We're going to bring back Green Havoc for his thoughts.
Alrighty, wow, that Route 66 made it look like it was going to be close, and I mean, it looked like it was going to be close, but then all of a sudden, the next round, it just did not go Clarity's way at all.
It looked good on Route 66. Clarity definitely got the switches going eventually. They also had time to work with, and all they had to do was finish the map. They had, again, I think me and LaFon have mentioned that both these teams are, especially Clarity, better on defense than they are on offense, and I think Route 66 was an important example of that.
Defense, I mean, that's not... We talk about teams that are better at defense than offense, and not many come to mind. Usually that means your offense needs work. But I think here tonight was actually a really good matchup. It was close. The 3-1 scoreline does not really paint, again, it does not really paint justice to how the matches went out, because there were some really exciting moments throughout the entirety. Kings Row, a very close matchup. It was basically meters apart. And then Route 66 obviously going Clarity's way in the dying moments of the game. Overtime on the second point for both teams. And then they head to the third with the same amount of time. And it's just a better snowball from Clarity that allows them to win out that map. Then we go, I think the only map that wasn't really close at all has got to be Oasis, which, heads in a 2-0 and heads basically 100-0 or effectively 100-0 in Oasis terms. A map that is known to stagger out fights quite long.
I think that's a great point, and you're right. I mean, it really was. This final map was the only map that really looked out of reach for Clarity. But Livid does ultimately claim the day, and they did it pretty impressively with only really stumbling on Route 66. But even then, they put up a solid fight, like you were just saying. So the big thing though, when we look at these games and we look at these players. What was the difference maker that Team Livid had that allowed them to just get that? I mean, those inches, like Kiwi was talking about in the pre-show. LaFon.
I mean, I could VOD review this all day. Something that I probably will be doing anyway. There's a lot to say about how offense works. I think. On a fundamental level, something that Clarity did in this game is that the comp that they were running to counter Goats, that Hanzo Doomfist, something they've been running pretty much all night, wasn't working out nearly as well as they'd hoped. And they were forced to switch off of it to Goats of their own, or like a 3-3 comp, or into a Pharah comp, or something else that they were just perhaps not nearly as comfortable on. I'm not sure what they're, how they've found this comp works against other teams, but I think against this particular team, against Livid, just there was no entry point that was given to them. Livid did a great job of shutting down some of the more offensive plays from the tanks and DPS of Clarity.
And I think Clarity also recently lost their main shot caller, being Felty, who got picked up by another team. So there's also that question of who replaced that shot caller role within the team, or are they having this, democratic communication of everybody just calls out whatever when they feel like it. So who knows what the communication is going on with Clarity, and it was clearly showing that is still needing to be improved on. Route 66 took a lot of time to get the ball rolling, and you just saw the difference of focus fire, like from Team Livid, especially on I think it was Gardens. We talked about Team Livid commanding that high ground, and then they just pounced on every single target that was either low or out of position, and Team Livid just looked so strong despite losing Route 66.
You're right, they did, and I will give them credit where credit is due. For a team that has only been together for a few weeks, they have been performing extremely well. They've been performing great in scrims and their team sheet, but as we all know, no team ever does poorly in scrims.
Never.
I can give you firsthand experience. My team does not win scrims ever, mostly because I tell them they never win. So maybe they'll learn. I'm not sure. Yeah, scrim result. Okay, here just a general PSA for teams. If you tell me your scrim results are good, I don't believe you.
No one knows if you're right or wrong.
It's a fun point, and you know what? In scrims, are you really ever losing? Because if you win, you're winning, and if you're losing, you're learning. Like what you guys were talking
we talked about that.
Exactly. So, but you know what time it is? We did this not too long ago. Well, not quite. It's a 12 where I am, but not quite noon.
Low noon.
Low noon, yes. But it is time for us to break down who we thought the big difference maker was, the MVP of the match, who gets those honors. And we'll start with you, Lemon Kiwi. I'll throw you into the spotlight first.
No. Oh no. Glafon, you do it first.
Oh my goodness. Hot potato, we go. That's okay. Well, here we go. I want to take a moment to highlight a play that actually was absolutely hilarious to me, and Amadi on Reinhardt. Let's go, dude. That was just fascinating play. The main tank player, I think a little out mind gamed on the Earthshatter battle though. But in terms of the stylistic play, not bad at all. Perhaps a little bit of work necessary if you're running that comp again though. In terms of the MVP though, you gotta, man, so many good players on both sides. I'm going to pick an MVP for a map.
Okay.
I think Route 66 is going to have to be Ultimate Weapon the May, because I think that was one of the turning points for that particular. Yeah. Not only was it fun, but it was effective. And I guess that's what makes it fun. But yeah, the May swap there basically shut down that quad tank wholesale. There was nothing they could do to really get around just the chain CC, as well as the walls and prevention of damage. So just a lot there. I think the May pick was the MVP for the map, and I'm going to refrain on giving a player pick for this series.
I think mine's got to be Rocker. He's kind of like, I don't know if I can use this metaphor, but he's kind of like a fart, He's like silent but deadly. Because he's been playing this Brigida role, and you don't really notice him on the kill feed, but he's enabling everybody so much, whether it's taking down a Reinhardt shield, whether it's using Rally during a fight to keep his team alive, or bringing out the Roadhog and hooking people off the map, and pivotal to the quad tank that Team Livid were running. So I was a big fan of Rocker, although he wasn't your DPS all-star. I think he enables his team so well.
I've used this prop before on Open Division Cast, but I'm going to use it again because for me, again, going back to the point that I've said maybe too many times during my performance here, is been the fact that they are such a new team for Team Livid. And you know what? If you're a new team, your captain's got to be on point. He's got to be leading the team from the front. So for me, I'm using the same prop, the same analogy. I'm going with the captain because, again, that leadership is key. And I think they're really proving that they can continue to make some waves in this tournament. However, that does do it for today. Unlike what Lemon Kiwi may think for the week, Monday is not tomorrow.
Monday in Mars somewhere.
We will be back on the 22nd. But before we get out of here and I do the final scroll call, if you will, are there any final thoughts on this game, LaFon or Lemon Kiwi?
LaFon?
I just want to shout out this tournament. It's been a good time. This is my second time casting the Not for Normies Invitational, and it's good to see the tier 3 scene have tournaments that are actually, that have such a high level of play, to show that the players, the upcoming players that are in the scene, have an opportunity to show themselves off, showcase their gameplay, and get an opportunity to experience a tournament setting. It's so tough to get. Sometimes you forget that when we're playing ranked, when we're grinding away mechanically or in VOD review, it's tough to really see the payoff. And tournaments like these are one of the ways you get to. So a shout out just to the tournament in general, both for having me and allowing me to cast this. It's been a privilege and a pleasure. And I hope you guys stick around and get a chance to watch more of the tier 3 scene.
Man, LaFon, you killed the speech game. I definitely agree with everything you just said. Shout out to this tournament and allowing a platform for a tier 3 scene to be able to show off their stuff, to flex their muscles, whether top 500 or not. There's some cash on the line, and this has been so well organized from the entirety of the staff at Not for Normies. And we will be back on Monday for some more normie action, or maybe not for normie action, but I'm excited.
Yeah, you're right. So we'll be back Monday, the 22nd, with all of the finals, the winners' finals, the grand finals, the losers' finals, and so there's going to be so many games to be played. I can't wait to see all of those. We have a full cast for that one: analysts, casters, hosts, of course. I'll be back, and a few other people will as well. A shout out to our producer, Captino, who just put in a tremendous amount of work today, giving us all the camera angles and making us look pretty and sound nice.
Yay.
So shout out there. Of course, a shout out to LaFon and Lemon Kiwi, who pulled double duty today, not only breaking down the games, but also giving you all the wordplay during them. I've been your host, Green Havoc, and one more shout out to the Not for Normies tournament, the Invitational, if you will, and giving us a tier 3 scene to work on. Until the next cast, we will see you on the ladder.